How's it, everyone? Welcome to another string review right here on OpenCourt. I'm Ken, and today I'm trying my second string ever by the company Toroline. So this string was sent to me by a viewer, so thank you so much for sending me this string. I did try your first string, which was the Wasabi. That review is on my channel. I didn't like that string that much, to be honest. It was a little bit more on the soft, springy side, which made it a little bit unpredictable for me. But the string I'm trying today is promising to fix that because it is supposed to be more a control-oriented string, which is more for me. And that string is the Toroline Caviar. Let's check it out. Alright, so the Toroline Caviar comes in 3 gauges actually. It comes in 124, 120, and 116. That's an interesting split. Most strings go 125, 120, and 115, but I'm fine with that. I'm trying out the 124 millimeter. That was what was sent to me, and it's only $12 a set, which is around the same price as 𝐦𝐨𝐬 Confidential Hyper G Tour Bite, that range, and I think that's a pretty good sweet spot for tennis strings, poly specifically. And this Caviar comes in a nice yellow color, looks like this. I'll show you the strings in my racket later. And it is a hexagonal string. It's 6-sided, but when I was stringing this string, I was feeling it, and in the edges didn't feel super sharp like a tour bite kind of thing. It wasn't hurting my fingers when I was stringing it. However, it did feel pretty stiff to the touch. I had a hard time stringing the crosses, which kind of hints to me that the string is probably gonna play a little bit on the firmer side. The website did say it does play a little bit firmer, but it's also supposed to be more lively and flexible. So it might be one of those control strings where the ball actually comes off pretty fast, but it still feels firm and comfortable. That's actually right in line with the type of strings I like, so I'm actually kind of excited to try this Caviar, as long as it's not the same as the Wasabi, which was very soft, very bendy, springy. The ball just kind of seemed to launch in all kinds of directions without really much of my input. According to Toroline's website, it says designed for all court players looking to hit penetrating shots with precision. So that's exactly the type of player I am. When I'm on the baseline, I like to aim for the corners and I like to plow through and hit penetrating ground strokes. I also like something that's very responsive at the net, so I can hit into those corners but also hit towards the sideline and the drop shots. So I'm actually pretty excited about this Caviar. Alright, so I got the Toroline Caviar strung up in my Bobla Pure Strike Wimbledon edition. So this is the same racket that I tried the Wasabi in, because Wasabi is a green string, so I strung it in my green racket. So naturally, I decided to string the Caviar in the same racket to kind of compare and contrast, see how it plays. The description for this string said it plays very different from the Wasabi, so I'm pretty excited to try this out. I'm not really a huge fan of Caviar, the food, in real life, but maybe I'll be a fan of this string. So without further ado, let's jump on the court and let's try out the Toroline Caviar. But before that, if you guys like this content and want to see more, be sure to overhead smash the like and subscribe button to keep the reviews coming. So let's start with the pros of the Toroline Caviar. First of all, I want to say that I actually really love this playtest. I didn't have the highest of expectations because I wasn't a fan of the previous Toroline string I tried, which was the Wasabi. This Caviar string played much differently, and in fact, I would say they are polar opposites. The Caviar has a nice firm response that provides a consistent feel and low launch angle, which provides great control on full swing ground strokes. But at the same time, the Caviar is a pretty lively string and provides decent pop for such a firm string. I don't think I've ever played with something like this before, where the string feels so firm, but the ball launches off with enough force for me to push my opponent around from the baseline. The Caviar is one of the best poly strings I've played with from the baseline, and I felt total command over my aggressive swings, and they were all going in. My forehand was deadly as I could blast the ball with so much pace and consistency. My opponents were commenting how heavy my shots were. Even my backhand had some decent penetration if I caught the ball clean. Because the string is so predictable, I could put my hips into my shot and rotate without much fear of hitting long. I was hitting a lot of backhands into the net at the beginning because the launch is really low and the strings started off fairly stiff. But once they settled in and the power opened up, I was able to hit powerful backhands that I could use as a weapon. I felt the Caviar actually got better as the playtest went on because the strings became more lively with more pop, but they stayed very consistent and playable. This was never more true than on my serves. I was hitting a lot of slice and flat serves into the net because the strings didn't have much give, but when the tension dropped and stabilized, I was able to clear the net with my serves at a much higher clip, and I could mix in slices on my second serves to keep my opponent guessing. The firm and lively feel was also great at net. I didn't have to work so hard to generate pace because the ball felt like it came off the string bed really fast. That's welcoming for me because I have a very compact swing on volleys and I don't really generate much pace unless I have enough time to step in and punch my volleys. With the Caviar, as long as I caught it clean in the sweet spot, I could hit some decent pace. The liveliness helped the most on my low volleys and defensive volleys. These types of volleys, I try to just block the ball, and that usually leads to me hitting a short defensive volley, but the Caviar assisted in getting decent pace while also hitting low or reflex volleys deep, so I wouldn't be put in a bad situation. I honestly could gush about the firm and lively feel all day, but that would make for a very long video, but this was by far the best aspect of the Caviar string. Another thing I briefly mentioned earlier was that the Caviar really opens up in terms of power and playability once the tension drops a bit. This ended up being a string I kept in my racket and used well after the playtest for this review. I usually cut strings out and move on, but I'm still waiting for a sharp drop in control and playability, which hasn't come yet. This is my favorite type of string, where there is an initial drop but settles in and holds tension for many play sessions thereafter. Tension maintenance isn't usually in my top priorities when I review strings, but I was very surprised by the Caviar's ability to maintain its lively feel, but also firm controlled response over many hours. If you're an aggressive ball striker that values the control of a firmer string, I think you will like the longevity of the control in the Caviar. As the strings settle in, the Caviar's feel also opened up more and complemented my front court game very well. Initially, the Caviar had a rather boardy feel when freshly strung, and not only was I hitting a lot of backhands into the net, I was also struggling to hit my touch and finesse-oriented shots because I wasn't getting enough feedback. But once the strings settled, I was able to hit my drop shots, angle volleys, short angle ground strokes, and even lobs with great touch, and I was confident going for those high-risk touch shots even during an intense rally. This is the best feeling. When my opponent thinks they have me cornered or they hit a shot that pulls me wide, I'm able to shorten my take back and hit a short angle topspin passing shot or angle drop shot that they can't even react to. Although I am an aggressive player and I like to rip the ball from the backcourt, the reason I'm able to win a lot of my points is because I'm able to mix in deceptive touch shots that my opponents don't expect. I'm not able to do that with strings with no feel like 𝐥𝐨𝐵𝐿 Confidential or Babala RPM Blast. The Caviar isn't super crisp like Link's Tour, but it is very lively and provides good feedback to my arm, and I'm able to change up pace and direction very easily. Another awesome aspect about the Caviar is that I'm able to do something I struggle to do consistently with most other strings, and that is being able to change up direction off my opponent's fast shot. For example, I don't normally go for the down the line forehand when I'm pulled out wide on the deuce court, but with the Caviar, this shot was a lot easier to pull off and it was super satisfying when I was able to do it. Accelerating through the point of contact gave me the passing power I need to win singles points. So to sum up, the Caviar is one of the best strings I've tried in terms of striking a balance between power and control. The string is quite firm yet very lively, which means it gets decent court penetration but also maintains a predictable trajectory for aggressive shots, and this string is one I will definitely consider as a full-time string in the future. Now let's get into the cons of the Toroline Caviar, and admittedly there isn't much. But first, the only real issue I noticed was the spin potential. It's definitely above average, and on ground strokes the spin brings the ball down inside the lines and I can still stay on the gas. However, I noticed on my kick serves I wasn't getting as much spin as I would have wanted, especially at the beginning. When freshly strung, the Caviar has very little string movement, therefore it doesn't slide and snap back enough for my shorter swing kick serve to produce a lot of kick. My opponents seemed to have no issues returning my kick serves, and I found myself camping on the baseline after serving more often than I usually do. My slice serves didn't have much mid-air movement either. It wasn't until the tension dropped that I noticed the string sliding a bit more. After that, I noticed a higher bouncing kick. So the firm feel when freshly strung not only affected power but also spin potential. The second con, which really isn't a con for me, is that I felt the Caviar was pretty stiff compared to the last Toroline string I tried, the Wasabi. That string was noticeably more comfortable. Although I don't have arm problems, off-center hits with the Caviar felt jarring at times, There was also a noticeable drop in power and feel if I didn't strike the ball clean. This is one of the reasons I struggled with my backhand at the beginning of the playtest. I hit a lot of backhands into the net, especially if I was forced to stretch or hit a defensive slice. Those with arm problems or slower swing speeds may find the Caviar too unforgiving. I wouldn't say it's a super stiff string, but in my opinion, stay away if you have a sensitive arm. And that's about it. I really like the Caviar a lot more than I thought I would, and honestly this is one of the best polys I've tried in recent memory because of the combination of power, control, and liveliness. If I were to use this string again, I would probably drop the tension by a couple of pounds only in the crosses to facilitate more spin when I use this string. So now, who is the Toroline Caviar for? It's for advanced ball strikers who want solid control from the baseline but also like a lively feel that produces decent power and spin. This is honestly one of the best control strings I've tried, and it's one of those control strings that isn't boardy and dead. If you like something that isn't too lively and will keep huge aggressive cuts inside the baseline, stick to something like RPM. I also think the Caviar would be fantastic as either a main or a cross in a hybrid setup. Perhaps if you pair it with a slick cross, it will get more snapback and become even more deadly. So let me hear from you guys if you've tried this string. I had a blast playing with it and it's one of the biggest surprises for me. I plan to try their Old Toro next, so let me know what you think of that in the comments below as well. And as always, I'll see you on the next review. Thank you for watching this review of the Toroline Caviar string right here on OpenCourt. If you guys like this content, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on an OpenCourt.